Good afternoon. Welcome to Wealth Wednesdays. I'm Seth Ferguson. Thanks for joining me. We are live right now at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today we are talking about lead generation because without leads, your business fails. And without converting those leads into paying customers, your business fails. And I have certainly made a whole bunch of mistakes when it comes to lead generation in a bunch of different areas. And today I thought it would be really helpful for you if I basically walk you through all of my mistakes that I've made in terms of lead generation. We're going to be talking about inbound versus outbound leads. We're going to be talking about qualification. We're going to be talking about list segmentation, all of that stuff. I really wanted to break it down in the hopes that you can take my mistakes, learn from them, and not repeat them, so you can be a whole lot more successful. So let's get right into it. We're going to be covering the whole kind of lead pipeline and life cycle that I've been following. So first of all, when I first started, starting to generate leads, in the past I had worked as a real estate broker, selling residential real estate. So I kind of knew the lead generation aspect from that side. But when you're coming into like a totally different type of business, maybe you have some experience selling in another sector, and then you come over to real estate. It's a different feel. Every industry, every business has a different type of feel. So you kind of have to learn the ropes. So what I did was I launched my podcast. It was called Purchase to Profits. And we're actually going to be launching a brand new podcast in just a couple weeks. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about it. We've got a whole bunch of really great guests lined up. And it'll be nice to get back into podcasting after I think it's been like a 2-year hiatus. So that'll be pretty cool. So what I was doing was I was running my podcast, and I was putting out all this valuable content. But my big mistake was I had no way of actually attracting people who wanted to learn more about what I was doing, who wanted to get in touch about investing or services or whatever it is. So let's just start. Hopefully my drawing isn't too bad today. So basically what I had up here was a lead magnet. And just in case you're not familiar, like a lead magnet is something of value. It could be a DVD, a VHS tape like back in the day. It could be a book. It could be an ebook. It could be a video series. It could be a specific video. It could be an interview. It could be cassette tapes from back in the 80s and 90s. Anything of value that you're putting out there to the market that a potential customer could find valuable. And in exchange for that, they'll give you some information, contact information, that sort of thing. So the podcast for me was the lead magnet, but the problem was I was putting it out there into the universe, but I had no way of actually communicating with the people who were listening because I didn't have a way of collecting their information. So that is mistake number one. I had a lead magnet, but I had no way of actually collecting a prospect's information so then I could learn more about them, find out what they're looking for, and start a conversation, right? At this point, if you just have a podcast, in my case, going out, it's a one-way conversation and it's not a two-way conversation. So you really want to start that two-way dialogue. And that was a huge mistake. And I learned that far, far too late. I squandered so much opportunity with that. But I promise you for the podcast 2.0, that is changing from day one. All right. So no lead capture. That was a huge mistake. So then once I fixed that, right? So now I had the lead magnet. And then somebody would be giving me their contact information. So we'll call this lead capture. So they would fill out their name, email, phone number, any details, depending on the type of lead magnet. Because I've been running a whole bunch of different types of lead magnets, and a lead magnet for me could be an ebook. We've got 2 ebooks now that we put out there, like quick start guides. We've got a blueprint. We have recordings. We have we have so many different lead magnets that we employ, and we're always testing, right? So now we have the lead magnets out there, and I'm capturing the leads data. But the problem is, the big mistake I made was, let's say this was my list of leads. Every single lead, no matter which lead magnet they downloaded, so it could be the ebook, it could be the PDF, it could be a video, whatever it is, they were all going to the exact same list. So I didn't have list segmentation, and that was the second big mistake I made. I wasn't segmenting the list. So basically my data, and you might be familiar with data management. I certainly wasn't. If you have just a mumble jumble and everybody's all combined together, it's not very useful, because for me, I had people interested in one part of real estate. I had people interested in another part. I had somebody else interested in an event. And because they were all put in together, I had no way of segmenting that and making sure the people who were actually interested in one thing actually got information that was related to that one thing. And they were getting a mix of all sorts of different stuff. Now, sure, you can cross-pollinate with your list. And if somebody is finished on one type of lead magnet sequence, you can move them to another one, but it wasn't organized. I had really poor data management, and it wasn't segmented. So that really bogged me down, because I had all these people now, but I had no idea who they were, where they came from, what they were actually interested in, and how best I could actually provide value to them. So that really hurt. So at this point, I had lead magnets, right? I fixed that problem. Then I started capturing their information. So I was starting to build a list, but then I had the problem with the list segmentation. I had gobbledygook. And like anything, if you have garbage going in, you have garbage going out. So then I realized that, sure, okay, now I've segmented my list. I know where everybody's coming from. I have good data, but I haven't started that two-way conversation, right? So I didn't have any extra information about the prospect. They may have given me their name, their phone number. I knew what they downloaded. So that was a hint of what they were interested in, but I didn't have a way of actually having a conversation with them. I didn't have any additional follow-up asking questions. I didn't have any additional, questions or surveys or somebody like talking with them. That was a really big mistake, because it's one thing to have a list of people, but it's the data involved in the list. Like it's knowing the details, and that's going to give you hints on what future products you can create, or how you can best serve them, what they're actually looking for, what's going to have them come back, all that kind of stuff. So lead magnet mistake, number one. Then lead capture, the segmentation, that was a mistake. And then not actually qualifying the lead. So I'll call this qualifying. The qualification aspect was a huge mistake, and I learned my lesson that way, but it was much too late. And it, like with the lead capture, I have squandered so much opportunity with that. So once I started qualifying the leads, I was doing it all on my own, right? So I had all these people coming in, and I was doing manual outreach to all these potential prospects, trying to learn more about them. Now, well, at the start, it was really helpful for me because I got to learn a whole lot more about the audience, right? What they were really interested in. But after some time, it became a full-time job. Like lead qualification is a full-time job. And then I was trying to do it all by myself. And that was another huge mistake I made because you are one person, and if you're generating a decent amount of leads, like it is not sustainable. So I didn't create a qualification system and where I could bring other people in and actually build a team around it to qualify the lead. So maybe right now you're a solo operator and you're doing some lead qualification. If leads are falling through the cracks and you're missing quality data that you could be getting, you are doing yourself a disservice by not bringing somebody on to qualify the leads. Because I guarantee you, just like I was, you are basically bleeding money because you are not getting the right kind of data, asking the right kind of questions for your list. So it's all about creating a system for how to qualify those leads once you bring them in. And then this kind of brings me to the current realization that I had. Now, I'll just give you a quick idea of kind of where we were at last year, right? So we ran the biggest advertising campaign I've ever been a part of. Now, if you're a really big internet marketer, you'll probably laugh at the numbers and say, hey, that's like small beans. But for me, like it was the biggest one we ran. Like we spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising, mainly because of the multifamily conference. And that's actually coming up May 26th to 28th this year now, because we're in 2023 in Toronto with Grant Cardone, Alex Rodriguez, Janet LePage, and a huge list of top real estate investors. So hopefully you can make it for that. Just go to multifamilyconference.ca to get your tickets before the price goes up again. So we ran this huge marketing campaign online, and I think just on Facebook alone, we reached like over two and a half, unique individual people on Facebook. And the amount of leads we generated was insane. Like it was just crazy. I made a whole lot of mistakes with that because, basically I took everything I had before, all the different systems, and then obviously you're scaling up a lot more. So then you have to kind of adapt and kind of go fly by the seat of your pants. So I would do things that way a whole lot differently. And let me explain why and kind of where I'm at today and why this might help you actually get like 10 steps. If you're just coming up behind where I am now, hopefully this will help you, save yourself a whole lot of grief and effort. So right now, we've got, I think of this now in terms of playing offense and defense, right? So I'll say offense and defense. So when you have a lead magnet, right? Or if you have a survey you're doing, if you have like a quiz, or whatever your lead magnet is, you are putting an ad in front of somebody and you are counting on them to actually respond to that ad, right? The ad's going to wake them out of whatever they're doing. They're going to click on it and they're going to read the copy you have, whatever it is, and they're going to take the action you want them to take and give you their information, right? So that is how lead generation works in terms of a lead magnet. But the problem is, well, I wouldn't say the problem, but actually, you know what? Let's call it a problem because this is how I was kind of thinking of it, right? So right now, let's say this is let's use the multifamily conference for an example, because I was talking about that, right? So in the grand universe, so this is the grand universe out there of potential customers, right? Ticket buyers for the conference. In the grand universe, this is how many people actually know about the conference, about my product in the grand scheme of things, right? So by me putting out, lead magnets or ads and whatever it is, hoping somebody will click on it, I'm kind of reaching this, right? Because I don't have the billions and billions of dollars to hit everybody in the universe, right? So there is a huge portion of people out there who have no idea about the product, no idea about who I am, no idea about anything, why they should show up, that kind of stuff. So kind of where I'm getting to in a really roundabout way is having lead magnets is a more defensive, passive way of generating leads, right? Because you're counting on somebody to click on it and take the action you want without any intervention from yourself, right? It's not like you're there with them, prompting them through the next step. You're really passive, taking that defensive kind of play. And that is basically how we ran, I would say, all of our lead generation last year in 2022. So let me draw it this way, right? So we've got a lead here, and we'll call this inbound, right? So an inbound lead is somebody who has filled in like a lead magnet. It could be a PDF, all the examples I listed, whatever it is. That is an inbound lead, right? We are counting on somebody to take an action to see our ad and then do that. So we have an inbound lead, and obviously when a lead comes inbound, we qualify them. We have a system now for making sure that gets done. We want to collect information about what they're looking for, all that kind of stuff. So that's how you work with inbound. But the problem was, like I drew the circle, we have a whole lot of people that we're not reaching who have no idea what we're doing. And inbound is just one way to do it. And, a lot of people, Aaron Ross, he basically built Salesforce. I saw today in the news that Salesforce is cutting 10% of their roster today. But he built Salesforce's outbound sales team. And this is the component that I really feel that I really missed last year, and we're making big changes for this year, 2023. Because inbound is the passive way. I want to play offense too, right? Defense is important, but I also want to play offense. And that's where outbound comes in. So outbound is the act of us actually going into the marketplace and saying, hey, you don't know about my service yet. Let me ask you some questions about what you're doing. Hey, would you be interested in this? So this is a more proactive approach. Inbound, you're putting something out there. It's kind of like fishing. You're putting out the hook and then you're reeling the fish in. Outbound is you're actually taking action and going out there and hitting the market and making sure that people know exactly what you're doing in the marketplace. So very, very different skill sets. And when I kind of first started doing this, what happened was no matter where the lead was coming from, so inbound or outbound, it all went to the same person. So the same qualification system was being used, whether they were inbound or whether they were outbound. And that caused some problems because the way you respond to an inbound lead is very different from how you would respond to an outbound lead, right? An outbound lead is where you're actually generating the lead. You're going to the marketplace and saying, hey, you don't know about my product, but you have this problem. Let me help you. Inbound is, hey, thanks for downloading our PDF or whatever it is. Let me ask you some questions. It's a very different tone. It's a different personality type or a different personality style on the phone. Very, very different. So the mistake I made with this in making that transition to bringing in outbound is I had the same system being used for inbound and outbound. Now, let me give you an example of a really good targeted outbound that I used last year. So this was for the mastermind I run. So it's called Mogul's Mastermind. And I had a very small list of people who I really wanted to participate and be a part of it, right? I had made this list of who I felt were very quality people who I really wanted to be a part of what I was doing. So I created the list, and I didn't want to like put ads out there. I wanted to actually send a message, right? An outbound could be a phone call. Outbound could be an email. Outbound could be a message on LinkedIn. And outbound could be direct mail. Now, I took a different approach on the direct mail. So basically, direct mail back in the 90s, let's say, or even now, right? You can send out postcards, you can send out letters, and it could be like a 6-page sales letter if you're doing like a Dan Kennedy type of approach. But what I did was I sent out these really cool boxes, right? And they had a video player inside. So basically, it was a video. I was sending all this stuff out, packaged in a really cool way. Everybody loves the boxes. It was really unique. It got a whole bunch of responses. But my problem was I was treating inbound and outbound the exact same way, and it wasn't segmented that way. So we have to segment our list, but we also have to segment how we approach our lead qualification once they come in. So the way I'm changing things up for 2023 and learning from those mistakes is now we're actually taking the inbound approach, which is very useful, right? So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we're going to hit all the different platforms just like we did in 2022 with all the different lead magnets, especially for the conference because that's coming up in 5 months. So we're going balls to the wall with it, and the ad spend is going to be pretty healthy. So we're generating a lot of leads for that, and we're treating the inbound leads differently from the outbound leads. So what I've done, or actually we're in the process of creating literally right now, is we have our inbound system, but we also have our outbound system, which is a totally different team. So now we have people who are about to go out into the marketplace and say, hey, listen, like, you don't know about this conference. You're working in this industry. Maybe you are a law firm that works just with sophisticated real estate investment structures, whatever it is. You don't know about what we're doing, but here, let me show how we can help you, generate some business for yourself, that kind of thing. So we're actually generating outbound leads. Now, Alex Morosi actually has said a lot of great stuff about this. Aaron Ross, again, I've mentioned his name a couple times. He's got a lot of good information about outbound. It really gives you a lot more control in terms of the lead generation, because here you're kind of passive, you're playing defense, you're waiting for somebody to click. Outbound, hey, if you know that if you make 100 calls and you can generate, let's say 2 appointments, it's just a matter of how many calls you're making to generate the leads that you need. So it's a lot more scalable in that respect. And it's something I'm really excited to implement in my business and what we're doing for 2023. So basically what it looks like is we've got our inbound system right here. So somebody downloads a lead magnet or gets involved, they contact us. That's an inbound lead. Then we've got the outbound. Now, outbound is actually generating those appointments or those leads for us to qualify. So these guys, the outbound team is qualifying the outbound leads. The inbound team is qualifying the inbound team. So people come in, they're qualified. Outbound generates the prospect, and then they qualify them. And then what we have is, depending on the type of service they're looking for, what they're looking for, we have specific people here that now that because they're qualified and we have better information, more data that we can use, we can now direct them to the right team member lower down into the funnel, so that way they're getting the best service possible. And then obviously after that, and this is right out of Aaron Ross's book, you have your customer aftercare right that. So this is how I'm approaching the systems we're building for 2023. Like you saw, I made a whole lot of mistakes starting way back from square one, where I wasn't even capturing lead information. And now we're at the point where we're, at least for me, we're generating a whole lot of impressions in terms of the ads and a whole lot of leads. And now we just have to do things a whole lot better. So if you're in this spot right now where, maybe you're not qualifying your list the right way, or maybe you're qualifying your list, but you're just relying just on inbound, I've realized that we need that outbound system as well, so that you can work in tandem. And then this will generate the inbound leads, which are different than the outbound leads. A whole lot of people will tell you that an inbound lead may not be as hot as an outbound lead, because an outbound lead, if they're talking to you on the phone and it's direct and they're having that issue right now, they might be hotter. So we're going to be testing this. I'm happy to talk about the results of that as we get some more data with it. But I'm really excited for what we're doing this year in terms of how we're structuring everything and the systems we are putting in place. So that is basically the list of my mistakes in terms of lead gen. So I talked about the multifamily conference in this example. So May 26th to 28th, we've got Grant Cardone, Alex Rodriguez, Janet LePage. We've got, I could go through the entire list of speakers, but you want to come to Toronto. I've basically rented out the CN Tower for a really cool party. We've rented out the best nightclub in the city for the official after party. And we have so many great speakers and investors coming from all over the United States and Canada to Toronto for the best multifamily conference, or the best multifamily event in the year. So go to multifamilyconference.ca. And until next time, happy investing. I'll see you next time.